Disclaimer. We are two regular guys who love to talk Bone Thugs and Harmony. We do not represent Bone Thugs or any Bone affiliate. We are also not Bone Thugs experts. The views and information you hear in this podcast may be based on personal opinion. Please feel free to leave corrections and clarifying information in the comments. And enjoy.
What's up, y'all? It's Cecil West, Beyond the Harmony, beyondtheharmony.com, back again with the one and only
Jonathan Lippy.
And this is Thug Thursday Season 3, back again, John. We are back again. Another interview. We are just lining them the fuck up this season.
Yeah, man, it's turning out to be an all-star list, almost like a wish list. Santa was nice to you this Christmas.
Yeah. Well, it's always like hit or miss, right? How quick the slots are gonna fill out, and it was like they were kind of filling out, and then all of a sudden it was like yes. I was like, oh shit, like everybody got back to me. This doesn't usually happen. Everybody got back to me.
Yeah, we might even have to pull an extendo of a special bonus episode at the end.
Who knows at this rate? At this rate, and it's like it's already going great. We blazed last week. We had Jazz from Too True. So it's already going great, and who knows? I never like to give it away. It's always like, hey, do we tell them what's about to happen? But I never like to give stuff away. I always like to leave the surprise for in the season.
Yeah, this past week, though, not to get into any details, we certainly had a overdose of Beyond the Harmony in the time leading up to this particular episode. You're working on a special project that may or may not have released by this point, but it sure has been a fun time researching it with you and discussing it and doing the things we do in between.
Yeah, these projects, anytime I do what I call the documentary style video, which doesn't necessarily mean it's a documentary. I'm just saying it's like it might as well be like its own show, like the Thugs Cry decoding and the thing I'm working on now. Which I mean, hey, it doesn't matter if it's out or not. It's definitely going to come out. We can talk about it a little bit. It might be out by the time they hear this.
Well, if anybody saw the behind the scenes of the mind of Cecil West, they may commit you because you are
That's
craziest...
the real video, right? Like the building of some of these projects.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I mean, just when we went back to Thugs Cry, the amount of time you spent editing it and the amount of time you and I spent discussing it, which actually like dates back years. And then even before we get to discussing the one from this week, I wanted to know, and I've been curious to ask you, was there kind of like what's the aftermath and how do you feel about the Mo Thug 2 decoding of the album cover? After you did it, did you find that you left anything out? Or how do you feel now that it's off your chest? Because that was another one that you've been wanting to tell for a long time.
Yeah, that one was a little smaller. It still took a little bit of time. I put a little bit of time into that. Making that right. And no, I think I covered everything really well, I believe. So there wasn't too much left on that one. And I'm really like precise. I make sure I've covered everything as good as possible before I put something out. And the Mothug decoding was really cool. You know, the thing that made it cool was when you thought it was over, and then
Yeah.
I hit you with the extra. And a lot of people are like, "Yo, I've never seen that cover before."
Yeah, I didn't see that cover. I think I saw that advertisement that you had one other time. Seeing Busy's face on it was a real cool little touch as well.
Yeah.
I did like the multi parts to it, and it was a real good video. It was so solid. I look forward to seeing any Cecil West production. And
That one wasn't that long either. It was nice, you know, because usually I'm like a fucking, you know, I like to make the movies.
yeah, it was cool too having the female group in there that you had with the input that they had, and then the other people that inputted. So
Yeah.
it was like you cited your sources. It made it like it wasn't just you; it was you and getting all the sources to prove what you were talking about. And so, speaking of that, that leads to the project that you've been working on building up for right now.
Hmm.
I don't even know where to begin talking about it. So if you want to talk anything about it, I'll
Well,
leave the floor to you.
I'll 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 tell what it is. I'm not going to get into the details in case it hasn't dropped, but I'm hoping at least part one has dropped by this video. Because this will have us about 3 weeks into the season. We pre-record in case anybody isn't catching on. So hopefully it's out by now. And I'm decoding the lyrics from Down 71 and creating the map that they would have used to escape the prison and get away. So by the time I'm done, you will be able to follow the same path that Bone followed to escape.
Woo! And yeah, and I recently rewatched that Bone Fan Vids animated video of
Yeah.
Down 71. And after when it first came out, I didn't appreciate it for how in depth it was until spending the past week with you this site dissecting every single lyric, and not just
Yeah.
every single
Did
lyric
it great.
from one source. I mean, we have the genius decoding of the lyrics, then we were finding like the Google decoding. So you looked at every single version.
Oh man, I look at this so deeply. I mean, I even took it's BT&H Fan Vids. Shout out to BT&H Fan Vids because they actually let me use their video in my video. So if you guys haven't subscribed to BT&H Fan Vids, they are really cool. They do something totally different than us, but it's still very unique. And I think it's something that our fans would really enjoy. And they, the same thing, man. Like the first time I saw it, I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like, 3D Bone shooting it up, whatever. But like the more I really dug to that song, I'm like, these motherfuckers did a great job.
Yeah.
They did a great job. And
And
it wasn't even like the extent of what they wanted to do. They had some software limitations and stuff, and it's like, wow, it would have been really cool to see like if their minds brought us there. Who knows, right? I always like the creative people that are that creative.
yeah. Yeah. And I thought what we had done was like so super first time, nobody ever did it. And then, living through every single lyric. Then I watched their video and I said, wow, these guys really did good. These guys
Yeah.
really did good. And
Mhm.
but I think you have a whole take on it, and it's like an opposite theory
Yeah.
anyway. But
Well,
shouts to them
they
for
did.
really capturing it.
They did what everybody wanted for 25 years, which is the music video. We wanted a whole fucking movie, so they at least gave the music video that people I think have been, hey, what's another single you would want from Eternal? I think most people are saying Down 71, who knows. But my thing's totally different. My thing analyzes the lyrics, and we basically get the fuck out of Cleveland. So that's
Yeah.
that's what I've been working on, and John's had to endure hours and hours of just like there's no way for me to describe the lunatic that I am when I do a project like this.
I almost want to go back and just extract it all and make a big, gigantic, like 3-hour uncut Cecil West's mind of decoding a song that lasts no more than 4 minutes. Every single possible. but it was cool. Like, I'm not even knocking it. It was really phenomenal watching how your mind works. And so, you know,
Yeah,
yeah,
I think the video, I I address angles that most people wouldn't, so that we can definitively get some answers. There's this, it's obviously like a song of the imagination, right? And it's like there's only so many details, so parts of this is going to have to be used, imagination the same way that they did, but I make it make fucking sense is what I do. I don't just say they took a left here because they had to.
right.
Fucking, I'm made up. Like I got reasons for it all. So
And the biggest part that I don't even know if we reveal that comes out of this is like, had we not, especially you, gone through this exercise, we may not have gotten our bonus episode that may or may not occur at the end of the season. So it was time well spent, is all I'll say.
yeah, at least one bonus episode. Who knows at this rate? The interviews have been coming in great, and tonight we have Freaky G of the Mo Thugs family coming on. Freaky G is we've talked, almost from the beginning, of Beyond the Harmony about him coming on, and it just hasn't lined up. But I'm glad that it lined up in season 3, because this is a guy with, he's an entertainer. It's fun to watch him on video. So I'm glad that he actually showed up for, this season. Or it's not that he showed up. He's tried to make it work for three seasons.
Yeah.
And actually
Yeah.
it didn't line up for us, any of it. And then season 3, you remember, I was like, when we were starting it, I was like, I'm gonna get Freaky G. Like, he was like the first person on the list.
Yeah, and who knows how it's going to go? It's going to be pretty cool. And when we have guests like Freaky G, because I've seen some people weren't familiar, and that's like, hey, well, that's the best part, is you're going to find out some cool stuff tonight. And I just found out something cool from Mo Thugs 3 Wikipedia. It says here that Bobby Jones did some production on it, and I didn't realize that. I don't know which tracks.
Really?
Yeah, it says producer Lazy Bone, Thin C, and Bobby Jones. And is
Really?
Thin C on? I don't even remember Thin C being on Mo Thug 3, is he?
Yeah, I
So,
think so. Um, I didn't think. I mean, maybe Bobby was still in at that time.
and I re-listened to the Mo Thug 3 Mothership this week, and it's
Uh-huh.
actually a lot better album than I remember it. I think when we did our original Mo Thugs review of all the albums, we weren't too thrilled with Mo Thug 3, but after re-listening to it today or this week, it's well produced. It's well performed. Like, all the rappers, they're pretty good rappers, and there's not really any bad songs on it. And it's a solid album. It's just, at the time, it just didn't really feel like a Mo Thugs. It felt like a regular rap album. And as a rap album, it's great. I think a lot of people probably, had different opinions on it based on the way it sounded, the roster lineup changing again, and just
So
how different it is. But it's solid as far as a
the
rap album goes.
the production actually has some names that we would know from past Bone projects. Damian Elliott did track 15. Oh, okay, that's a Flesh track. That makes sense. Darren Vegas did 7 and 9. So Darren Vegas on there. Also Mike Smooth, Rich E, and Thin C. Thin C did a bunch of tracks. Thin C did like 5 tracks. So couple in there. You probably remember, I was pretty excited when Mo Thug 3 came out. Like when it first dropped. So I
Yeah.
was always a fan, but you are right. Like, this is kind of where the Mo Thug thing changed. And that's something I'm hoping to get into with Freaky G tonight. Is just like kind of like the change in tides in Mo Thug, because he was there for that. He was there for when the tide changed. It's almost like when we talked to Shutter about being there for when the life changed from Thug Line to the Life.
Right.
And even though this name didn't change, like I felt like that was the same kind of shift that happened.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it happened again with them when they kind of went from Mo Thug to Harmony House. But so we're gonna have Freaky G on. A lot of people, when I set this interview up, they were like, I don't know much about Freaky G. I want to ask you a question. I'm not sure what to ask, and I'm like, well, I think that's great because that's really what we do here is we uncover things that we don't know, and I always like that more than just like something that we know a million things about. It's kind of exciting for me to go in and know that I'm gonna dig and I'm gonna kind of set like a little bit of history by uncovering something.
Yeah, and just in case the audience isn't familiar, so Freaky G on Mo Thugs 3 is on the track Last Laugh. That's Immortal Thugs featuring Freaky G and Kahpone, and that is Kahpone from season 1 that we interviewed. And he's also on what the heck's it?
It's
You Don't Want None. Yeah, You Don't Want None.
And it's the same lineup: Immortal Thugs, Kahpone, and Freaky G. So, and I actually got questions about that as well. And then Freaky G, went on to do a bunch of solo stuff after this. Like he's got like a huge discography, which we're gonna dig into tonight. So we are here. We are kicked off. It is Thug Thursday. You were tuned in. Cecil West, John Lippy. We're gonna take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we will be with Freaky G.
Yeah, nigga. Thug line up in this motherfucker. Yeah. Mr. Sawed off leather face. Going down. Finna get y'all motherfuckers fucked up. Let's get high. Yeah. Now my nigga Pop run y'all motherfuckers to Thug Passion. Rest in peace. Got y'all niggas fucked up. Yeah. We got some new shit, nigga. Check this shit out. It's called.
Let's take a trip into the southeast side.
The clothing line owned by Freaky G. Brand new designs coming in 2021. Get them now by visiting all Freaky G social media. Cross the Dudes 2021. Welcome to the Wasteland.
Yo, this Blaze, man. This your brother Blaze, and I'm here with Beyond the Harmony, Cecil West, John Lip, my niggas.
And we are back, Cecil, John, and our guest, Freaky G. He's a member of the Mo Thug Records team during the Mothership era. He currently has a new project on Spotify called Waste Up, and a project coming soon called Talk My Shit. Freaky G, finally, I can say, welcome to Beyond the Harmony, my brother.
Oh, man, this is a motherfucking privilege, man. How y'all feel, man?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
good. I was telling John before we got you on, I was like, I think I've been talking to Freaky G from almost the very beginning of the show. We've talked about getting him on over and over. And, it's crazy. The first season we ran it was almost like 30 episodes. We got burnt out. The second season, it kind of ended early. And then we were supposed to do this one. COVID happened. And finally we got around. And as soon as it happened, I was like, we're getting Freaky G on this motherfucker. As soon as we
Man, I'm glad y'all called me, man. I've been waiting to get on this show, man.
Yeah.
It's a lot of shit that fans put out here, man, that they don't really know the real artist. So,
yeah. Well, that's
I like y'all platform, bro.
That's what I try to do, and that's what we're really about, is getting the whole 360 degrees of the story out. And I always say everybody that played a part has an important story, and I think yours is no different. And the fans always want to know the behind the scenes, the backstory. But before we get into any of that, before we start to talk about the Mo Thug, before we start to talk about anything, there's an entire backstory here. And I always like to start it off with, are you Cleveland born and raised?
Man, hey, 96 in St. Clair. My address was 644 East 96, bro. I was born in the coldest city on the coldest day, bro, in the middle of a blizzard. For real.
The
And
Cleveland native.
From the hospital, it was 644 East 96th Street. That's the back end if people don't really know nothing about St. Clair. That's the back end. That's what we call the wastelands.
So the Cleveland native, Freaky G, let me ask you, when did you get into hip hop? When did it start? When did you become a rapper? Is it something that was happening early on in your youth, or are you one of these guys that just all of a sudden you were like, I rap? Like, how did it all pick up for you?
And well, I started playing drums for the church at like 8 years old, bro. So music was already in me. You feel what I'm saying? And then it was like everything that was going on in my house was all blues or R&B, some classical shit like the Commodores or the OJs or something like that. It was always going on in my house, man. My grandma, she was a hustler. So, I was always around that music. But
Yeah.
taken to I hit like 16 years old that I really, took music seriously. Because, my little cousin Boo from the graveyard shift, he had got killed. And, T-Rock him came to me and was like, dude, what the fuck you gonna do? You gonna throw your life away, or you gonna go ahead and do something with yourself?
Wow. So that was something I was going to jump in with you was Graveyard Shift. Before I do that though, I want to say something that I thought was interesting when you were talking about, playing drums and just the music around you. I always think it's amazing when I talk to people. I'm like, my influences are so heavy because so much music was around me. And I'm always grateful that it wasn't just one kind of music, because
Oh, bro, like my house was like my family is multicultural. Like my one great grandfather is a Sicilian, the other great grandfather is a German. One married a Cherokee, the other one married a Blackfoot. You feel what I'm saying? So
yeah.
it's like my household was always multicultural, man. Like I was listening to rock and roll, Elton John, fucking Black Sabbath, shit, Blue Oyster Cult. I was listening to all kind of different music and shit as a kid, man. And it was like once I started taking music seriously as a kid, I started being able to write and read music.
It's incredible to hear you say those things, because that's a regular thing that I hear with anybody that had that like graveyard shift affiliation, was like the variants of music. It wasn't even just the typical variant that you would expect,
Oh, man,
like hey,
T-Rock
Motown
on
and
that
stuff.
shit, man. Like Stone was on that shit, man. He didn't want you to be, like whatever's happening now. Stone didn't want you to be fucking with that. He wanted you
Yeah,
to take yourself beyond that. You feel what I'm saying?
yeah.
And then, like I say, by me listening to a lot of rock as a kid, that made me different from the other kids in my neighborhood. So when T-Rock, he found out that shit, he was like, man, fuck this. We putting this nigga on.
Yeah. Yeah, that we had Sin on I think last season, and we were talking to Sin, we were trying to just ask him different things about Stillwaters, and we'd asked him who somebody was on the song, and he said, "Well, that's Freaky G." And I was like, "Oh, wow." And he's like, "Yeah, Freaky G went under a different name back then." He goes, "And that's Freaky G." And we were amazed by that. And he goes, "Look, you see how it's all kinds of different crews, and Freaky G was with, like the Shift first. He was
Hell
with
yeah,
us."
I was a kid then, bro. Like 16, 17 years old, bro. Rolling
Wow.
with the shift, you know.
Wow. So
Me and
is
Rock
that how
used
you
to
got?
do them, man. We was out there in California, bro. We was rolling. We was rolling, man. That was a memorable time for me, man. I met a lot of influential people like Dr. Dre and Tony Draper and shit like that, man. It was dope.
So when you say you were in California with Graveyard Shift, like was that during like when they were in Mo Thug, or what was that
Yeah,
specifically that you were
definitely,
out there for?
definitely. We was actually working on Mo Thug 2. I was supposed to been on that album, but me being in the streets as a young motherfucker, I didn't take my brother's his offer seriously. He was like, "What do you want, bro? Do you want to rap, or do you want to motherfucking be in these streets?" And it was like I didn't take that shit too serious. You know, I'm young as fuck, man. I'm living the time of my fucking life. Yeah, whatever's going, let's do it.
Yeah.
You know, and shit, man. I fucked around, went to jail, missed my opportunity on chapter 2, family scriptures. No, that's family reunion.
Yeah, family reunion.
Yeah, I missed my opportunity on that. But you know, I don't. I think that number 3 was the best one, man. Cause working with Immortal Thugs was a fucking opportunity out of this world. Like, they're my brothers for life, bro.
So is that how you got the connection to like Bone and Mo Thug? Was that through Graveyard Shift?
Nah, I like me, Lazy, Flesh, Studies, um, they mom. We had a relationship way before. You feel what I'm saying? Even this music shit even pop for real, for real. You know, for me, you know, it was like shit. Do we let this kid lose his life out here in these motherfucking streets, or do we do something? And then shit, Mama P was like, "Fuck that." That's one of my homegirls' kids. You feel what I'm saying? Like shit, I went to school with his mama and his aunties. No one of my homegirls' kids. Hey, no, fuck that. He coming in with me. You know, it was always family, always from the start.
Mm. So you've been even before people knew you on the record and heard you on the record, you were kind of like the Mo Thug that wasn't on the record yet. Because there was a bunch of guys that I know that were like that were
And
Mo Thug.
we was the strength. Bone was the motherfucker. Was the strength of that shit, but we was the muscle behind Bone.
Yeah.
Oh, good. We had the back then. That shit was tight than a motherfucker, man. Like niggas knew what it was. All anywhere we went, it wasn't just in the city. It was nationwide. Anywhere we went, man, motherfuckers knew. Like, man, don't fuck with them niggas, man. For real, them niggas tight as fuck. That's family right there.
So you were supposed to be on Mo Thugs 2. You said that at that time you were young, did some crazy stuff, and it was around then that you ended up in jail.
Yeah, that was like I did some county time and shit. You know, I was fucking around with the drugs still. You know, did a little county time. Then after Mo Thug 3, oh man, I went back
Yeah.
to jail. I
So
went back
so
to jail this time for the long haul. Like the judges and wasn't fucking with me. They was like, motherfucker, we tired of keep seeing you come through here. We ain't playing with you no more.
So that was gonna be one of my questions was what happened after 3. But before we get there, let's talk about 2 because
Okay.
let's talk about 3
Okay.
because you were supposed to be on 2, you go to jail, you missed that opportunity, 2 drops, you get out. Now there's some time there because number 2
Yeah,
dropped
yeah,
in
yeah.
98,
And
the
that's
Mother Shop
me
2000.
and the family, we linked back up. You feel what I'm saying? And it was like, life was like, fuck that little dude. You not going back to the streets. You hanging with me. You living with me. Come on, let's do this shit. You feel what I'm saying? And we was moving, man. Like we lived in Atlanta, shit,
Wow.
Los Angeles, shit, man. We was moving all around this motherfucker. For real, we was like gypsies around this bitch.
And you finally in terms of on a record were officially with Mo Thug on a record. That must have finally been a great achievement. I mean, you've been with the crew for a while, but finally it's like you're on the starting lineup. You know, you're in Mo Thug 3. I've always wanted to ask somebody that was part of Mo Thug 3 how you felt things kind of changed with that record because it was a big transition. Mo Thug went from Relativity over to Koch, and it was a big transition even with it just being Lazy Bone. And you were around before that, so what was that like? That big change?
But it was like us as artists, we didn't give a fuck what record company we was with. You feel what I'm saying? It was like, nigga, we got projects to do. We got albums to put out. We got songs to put out. Let's do this shit. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And lucked up and got on Mo Thug 3. A lot of people don't even understand that shit. I lucked up and got on Mo Thug 3. If it wasn't for Emmortal Thugs, I wouldn't have never got on Mo Thug 3.
Shout out to EMT. I always love the story about EMT.
Shine, motherfucking Paul, Lil D, Lil Mac. Shit, shout out to all 5 of my little brothers, man. Cause if it weren't for them niggas, man, I wouldn't have never got on Mo Thug 3.
If you go on YouTube and you look up those 2 songs from Mo Thug 3 and you read the comments, people are always like, this is the hardest song on the record. This is like the hardest song ever. Like, people love those songs.
And people don't even know how that song was created, man. It was like shit. I wasn't even supposed to be in the studio. It was Emmortal Thugs fucking session. But they was chilling and all that shit. And I was in there with the fucking engineer and he played a fucking beat for Last Laugh. And I was like, oh man, this shit sound dope. He was like, you can rap to that? I'm like, yeah. He like, do something. I'm like, nah, man, I don't freestyle, bro. I got a pen hand. He's like, all right. He just put it on repeat for me. And I sat there and I wrote out some shit. And then Lil D walked in. And I'm like, Lil D, check this out. He like, whose song is this? I'm like, it's supposed to be one of y'all. Shit. You know? And he was like, man, this shit raw as fuck. I'm like, what would you say on this? And he helped me out. Him and Lil Paul helped me out with the hook. And I dropped my verse. And Lay came in there. He was mad as fuck. He was like, freak, man, this ain't even your fucking session, bro. What the fuck is you doing, man? I'm like, bruh, the sound dope. He like, man, don't even say nothing else. The engineer played the shit back. He heard the shit. He was like, all right, y'all motherfuckers got to put a skit or something on this. You know, and then we beat up Scant Bound on the song, you know.
Did you guys do Last Laugh and You Don't Want None in the same session? Were those done the same day or were those different sessions?
Them was done in different sessions. It was like after Last Laugh was done, Lay listened to it for a couple of days and then he was like, well, what else y'all niggas got? And then that's when, you know, Lil D came with, y'all don't even want none. Because if you did, you would bust guns.
Yeah.
Play with the pots gun. Hey, man, this shit was so dope. I'm like, oh, shit. I didn't know what to say on that song for real. But I rode they vibe. I love my little brothers, man. That shit is magical as fuck, man, when we all get together and we record, man. That shit is dope.
Beyond the harmony for the fans we celebrate.